Hello everyone and welcome to this video which is in our Great Engine Game series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we're taking a look at a game between Stockfish and Winter played in the TCEC Season 23 Chess Bonus. Chess Bonus, what is that you might ask? Don't we do only chess at the TCC? Well, it's true, but one of the things that you don't often see at the TCC are games from the starting position. In general, it's always assumed that, well, first of all, if you played every single game from the starting position, you get an awful lot of duplicates, and also there would be a high proportion of draws. But there was a fascinating bonus recently where Stockfish, Leela and Komodo Dragon, the clear top three engines, took on all the other engines from the starting position. And the big goal, of course, for the other engines was to make 6 draws. 2 draws against Stockfish, 2 draws against Leela, and 2 draws against Komodo Dragon. Well, it turned out to be a pretty tough ask. But the engines that did best generally played the Berlin opening as black. So met 1e4 with 1e5, and met 3 bishop b5 in the Lopez with knight f6, and then went for the Berlin. Now, this position led to an awful lot of draws. But there was one shining exception, and that was the game that Stockfish won against Winter. And, well, I thought I wanted to show this game to you because it was absolutely amazing. So let's have a look at the opening. How did it go? So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight f6. The Berlin. First played by Harry Nelson Pillsbury in the 1890s with good results, but somehow fell completely out of favour. Arthur Bisguer, the American grandmaster, played it an awful lot, but it was, of course, Vladimir Kramnik who picked it up in his World Championship match against Garry Kasparov, who really made it into, well, the feared drawing weapon that we know and love. So castles, knight takes c4, and now rook e1. I mean, this is... you know, almost all the engines that you see, this is their favoured line. The Berlin endgame, the pure Berlin endgame with d4, knight d6 takes, d takes e5, knight f5, is not thought by the engines to be as good a winning attempt as 5 rook e1. Have my doubts about that. Well, certainly on the human level. And this is a very, very interesting position. But, well, rook e1 in general is aiming to give white a position where white can't lose and only white has winning chances. But, well, those winning chances turn out in general to be quite small. So knight d6, knight takes e5, bishop e7, bishop f1. One of the irritating things for white that the bishop on b5 is hanging. And now knight takes e5, rook e5, castles, d4, bishop f6, and now rook e1. There was a little vogue for rook e2, and I think that Stockfish played this in one of its games, but rook e1 has been the main move. And now we get actually a rather critical, or at least important, branch in the opening. Almost all of the engines, and especially Komodo, Leela and Stockfish, played rook e8, aiming to swap off a pair of rooks before regrouping the pieces. And c3 takes, knight e8, followed by d7 to d5, was a pretty common way of playing. What Winter does is actually a move that's been recommended in a recent book by Michael Ruiz. He recommends the move knight f5. Now, I'm sure that this is enough to equalise in the long term as well. But, well, we're going to see some important differences in this move. And actually what Stockfish exploits in this game, where it's really the drawbacks of this move. I mean, let's just, before we get going too far, I mean, why on earth do engines think that white has got some chances? You know, why is Stockfish evaluating this as, you know, 0.2, 0.3? Why is Leela giving this, you know, 0.15? The key thing is that, you know, white is very harmoniously developed and that black's pieces are a little bit awkward. The knight on d6 blocking the pawn on d7, which means the bishop on c8 can't develop. The bishop on f6, fine, but just really looking at a pawn on d4, and after white goes c2 to c3, then the bishop is not really doing a great deal. And white's position is very easy and logical, and there's development with bishop f4, knight d2, queen f3, bishop d3. Give white a few moves and it could develop very quickly into a big initiative. So black's really got to take a fair amount of care with developing. And obviously, one of the ideas will be to move the knight from d6 and to play d7 to d5 and activate this bishop on c8. There's two ways of doing it. Rook e8 is what the engines want. Knight f5 is what Michael Ruiz recommended. Well, let's just carry on a little bit further along this and we'll see how that goes. So c3, defending the pawn on d4. c6. This is actually just going to transpose back into Ruiz's main line. You could go d5 straight away, but c6 is fine too. Knight d2, d5, knight f3, knight d6. So the knight has to move again. Important really to let the light squared bishop develop to a good square. On the other hand, d6 is a pretty good square for the knight. It's got outposts on c4 and e4, guard squares around the centre. Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. Bishop f4, bishop f5, a4. Very typical move from the neural nets, and also a very nice way of just starting up some play without making any big commitments. White's idea is just to play a5, and then after a5, well, we've restricted the black queenside structure. We could maybe play queen b3. Black won't be able to answer with queen b6. There's some possibility for advantages there. So black plays a5 to block, and then white goes h3. Yeah, what can you say about this position? Well, it is pretty symmetrical, of course. And yeah, pawn structure, obviously there's no differentiating factors there. The only real differentiating factor between the white and the black positions are the positions of these pieces, relatively speaking. And well, what we said before still holds true. This bishop on f6 is just pointing at a brick wall, so not really doing that much at all. One interesting thing is that the knight on d6, it's pretty good. It can aim for c4 or e4, but it is unprotected. The bishop on f4 is attacking it. So the black queen is, in fact, a little bit restricted in its movement. It can't really move anywhere too easily. Yeah, because the bishop is on f6, just slightly easier for white to use the e5 outpost for the knight, because when black goes knight e4, yeah, f3 is always going to be much easier for white to achieve than f6 is easier to achieve for black. So these are, tiny little things here. But if you were to ask me, I'd just say, well, yeah, but what can you do? Nothing to be done at all. But, well, let Stockfish get to work with these things and you'll start seeing how strong it is. And, obviously, in my engine matches, I run it between Stockfish and Komodo Dragon. And, yeah, both Stockfish and Komodo are really holding these positions until very late on. But you get a 3200 rated engine like Winter. And well, you see what Stockfish can achieve, and well, maybe that gives some clues for games against humans as well. So h3, h6, queen b3 from Stockfish. And this is a very nice position for the queen. A4, a5 has stopped black from ever considering queen b6, of course. And anyway, the knight on d6 is attacked, so yeah, the queen can't really move that easily. So bishop e4 played by black. Knight e5, rook e8, rook e2. And I just want to maybe point out, one of the differences. The reason why I don't like Ruiz's move, knight f5, as much as I like Leela and Komodo Dragons and Stockfish's move, rook e8. The point is, and you see this happening more and more during the position, is that, well, black hasn't swapped off any of the rooks, and white does actually manage to build up quite a bit of power with doubled rooks on the e-file. Behind the knight on e5, and of course the bishop on e4 that can be removed with f3, so basically the knight on e5 remains, and then it's always in white's power to decide, I want to open the e-file, I want to move my knight away and start fighting for the e-file. And white has that power, and the fact that white's got two rooks on the board really makes it a dangerous threat. If a pair of rooks was exchanged already, yeah, you wouldn't notice it half as much. And yeah, I mean, Petrosyan said that, made a very good point. He said the difference between an attacking and a defensive situation can really be seen in the activity of the rooks. So, you know, the attacking side moves forward, gains space. As pawns move forward, as you gain more space, your own rooks get more and more space, and the opponents, yeah, the rooks, their activity doesn't increase at all. It just stays behind, waiting for something to happen. And yeah, I mean, I really feel that not exchanging a pair of rooks early on is really well, a significant mistake is going too far, but it's definitely an error that can be exploited, I think. So Winter tries to exchange off some pieces, and Stockfish is having none of it, basically, just keeping the pieces on. Again, you know, if Black tries to play moves like f6, well, then this bishop on h4 is going to be in a lot of trouble. It's just going to get trapped and won. So actually, Black doesn't have a great deal to do now. I mean, probably its position is as good as it gets. I might have been tempted myself, to be honest, just to try and bring this bishop back to e7, f8 and normalise the position. That seems reasonably tempting to me, but yeah, there's no immediate need for it. Winter just plays rook e7, rook e1, bishop g5, and really, you know, basically, Black is just deciding to wait for the rest of time. So queen a3, rather irritating move. Queen and bishop combining here without you know, a clear direct threat, maybe at some times, but yeah, always with latent threats. And of course, well, in this specific position, knight takes c6 followed by queen d6 is possible. So rook c8 is played. The idea, obviously, knight c6 can be met by rook c6 now. It's quite funny. A lot of these details you often don't realise just when you know, watching the games unfold. But you know, when you look at it by yourself and analyse, you just sort of see lots of little tactical details. And this next move is really nice, but somehow, yeah, it's a move that I would, you know, if I was playing white here, I'd have to think a very, very long time before playing it. Not really due to chess reasons, probably more due to, yeah, psychological reasons somehow. White plays the move c3 to c4. So what is the point of this? Well, of course, you know, this pawn cannot be taken because the bishop on e4 is loose. So, you know, d takes c4, we've got rook takes e4. So this means that white is gaining space, but what is white actually aiming to do here? I mean, if you take on d5 later, I'll just probably take with a bishop on d5 and have a, you know, a lovely position with against white's isolated pawn on d4, or maybe even take back with a c pawn and get an open c file. What on earth is white's idea? And then the second point is that Black has this move knight f5. You know, when you played c3 to c4, you're weakening this pawn on d4. You're giving Black a target. And yeah, you know, I mean, presumably the bishop could come to f6. You know, you could imagine a position further on where this d pawn could become weak. So, and in actual fact, you know, in this position, white plays rook d1 to defend the d pawn. So moving away from these doubled rooks on the e-file and just passively defending a pawn on d4. I mean, has c4 really worked out that well? Again, this is, you know, I think a lot of the decisions that you take as a human player are often based on not on calculation, but also some, you know, some residual emotion somehow about things that have happened to you in the past. And I've definitely had these situations where I've tried to gain space, overextended myself, and a pawn like this in the end has proved to be a massive weakness, especially when I was young and somehow a little bit too keen on overextending myself. And I think, you know, that's the sort of residual memory that would make me think, you know, twice about playing a move like this. But you know, Stockfish's idea is very simple. Obviously, it hasn't been traumatized in its youth like I have. And you know, when you look at what has c4 to c5 achieved, well, you know, you're no longer going to be able to undermine this pawn. You know, you've given that up. But let's face it, that was never really a likely or huge goal. What you have done with c4 to c5 is, you know, change the pawn structure and also take some squares away from the black pieces and give yourself some outposts as well. So this pawn on c5 gives an outpost on d6, also takes d6 away from the black knight, which now has to find a new post. And, you know, on the queen side, this this c pawn on c5 prevents the b pawn from defending the pawn on a5, which means that that one's going to be isolated. Queen c3 will force the queen to defend the pawn. And it also gives white the possibility of playing something like b4, for example, takes, queen takes, and then lining up on the pawn on b7. I mean, actually, that moving this pawn to c5 gives white a whole fresh cycle of new attacking ideas, quite apart from any other ideas that white might have had already in the position. So yeah, and again, the advantage that you're gaining is not significant by doing this, but it's definitely putting more challenges, and it's making the position just a little bit sharper as well, which means that any mistake from black will cost slightly more. So knight g6, queen b3, not rushing Stockfish, just lining up again on the b7 pawn. Bishop f8, rook e1, rook a8. And now this move bishop d3. Again, not an obvious move for me. Somehow, yeah, I suppose just the tendency to want to keep as many pieces as possible. The feeling that if you exchange off black pieces, then well, the cramping of black's position, which you've made a start on with c4 to c5, that'll be reduced somehow. But simply this bishop on e4 is a good piece, and what white also wants, white kind of wants maybe some space for the queen to come along here, start attacking. And if you played a move like f3 just to drive away the bishop, that might be more difficult to achieve. So I guess that bishop d3 is really just well, exchanging off one of the opponent's active pieces, and also really giving white's pieces the maximum amount of mobility outposts all over the place. That f-pawn will be used later, as you'll see. So takes, queen e8, bishop g3, knight g6, queen c3. And I think we start entering now the critical part of the game, where essentially Winter really started going backwards. Now, yeah, I mean, really after Winter's next move, I sort of assumed that, in a higher way, probably white was just winning. But actually, Komodo Dragon and Stockfish, even you put them forwards another 5 or 6 moves, they're still managing to hold draws for black. But yeah, I do think that Winter's next move is really really starting a downhill slide. The point is, what is white going to do? Well, I mean, it's all about gaining space, really. Black's position is pretty solid. You're not just going to be able to hammer through, but you could gain space on the queen side with AB queen b4, start targeting the b7 pawn, and there's obviously a lot of potential for gaining space on the king side, especially because with this bishop on g5 we can gain a tempo with f4 or h4, and if black goes f6, then we just play something like this, and then h4, for example, and hey presto, we've won a piece. So, I really thought that, black should be trying to somehow extricate himself, somehow get this bishop, I don't know, back to d8 and c7, something like this. I mean, I was looking at a move like rook e6, for example, just to go, just giving myself an escape square back there. Stockfish wanted queen d8. And after rook f1, it was actually taking and going rook d7. And it's quite a nice little idea. Black gets the possibility of going bishop h4 to try and exchange off the bishops, and also supports d4 to d3. And after d4, you get rook d5, and your pieces start working together. That was a pretty good idea. I was a little bit nervous about doing it, but yeah, doing it in this way kind of makes sense. But what Winter did was play bishop f6 and f4. And Stockfish's valuation at the TCEC really jumped much, much higher there. And yeah, I mean, simply, this move f4 cements the pawn on e5, the knight on e5 rather. And I mean, we've got f5 coming in, and once f5 is in, then we've got some more possibilities coming. It's like the start, you're starting to push that stone, and it's going to start rolling and rolling. So it's a little bit tricky to know how to defend this the best. I think Winter did fine for a while. It played f5 and knight d7, and this is not silly at all. I mean, the queen, the knight, the bishop, and the rook, all attacking the knight on e5. So that does mean that white can't move the queen away, for example. White's got to, you're always tying white down somehow to the defense of that knight. And if the knight moves away, well, you could exchange off a pair of rooks. It's not going to completely relieve your position, but it would actually help you a little bit. So white plays king h2, and here Winter played knight f8. Which I'm not so happy about. I mean, in my engine games, they're played at a faster time control. I mean, this is Stockfish against Dragon. Rook c8 played by Dragon. Rook b1. You see Stockfish switching plan here and just going for the queen side. Bishop f6, knight g4, takes. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit better for white here. But, well, with a good, powerful knight coming in here, some counterplay against the king, then Komodo managed to hold this okay. But essentially, Komodo was just going to wait like this and see whether white could do anything. I mean, I'm not really sure, to be honest, why, the plans that were played in the game, just trying to gradually expand on the king's side, why these wouldn't be decent here either. Again, I think that probably seems quite promising. But Winter played knight f8, queen b3, and rook c8. And, well, yeah, all this freedom, the fact that the knight on e5 is very easily protected now, this gives Stockfish real opportunity to really start building up power behind that knight on e5. So rook d3 played, rook a8, Winter just waiting. Queen d1, the queen's being redeveloped, and rook de3. And what's the idea? Well, there's plenty of them. I mean, rook e2, queen e1 is a very unpleasant idea because then some discovered attack is really going to work. And the queen on e1 is also attacking the pawn on a5 there. The other idea is simply to bring the queen over in order to start probing against the black king side. And yeah, the queen can also play a role in supporting the march of the g and h pawns. So queen d8 played, bishop f4, bishop h4, typical engine move, just anything just to irritate. The one thing about playing bishop h4 is that it means that rook g3 is no longer possible, so you do reduce the attacking options a little bit. But queen g4 played, we're threatening bishop h6, king h8, and now king g2. And now Winter panicked somewhat, made a break for it, which, well, would have been great if it wasn't for some tactical problems. But already, I mean, a lot of these games now between Stockfish and Komodo are ending in white wins. Yeah, an awful lot when Stockfish is white, and really quite a few even when Dragon is white against Stockfish. Yeah, I mean, this was quite a common scenario. Queen f8, h4, and then both Stockfish and Komodo just wanted to play d4, just to sacrifice a pawn and get a little bit of breathing space for the rooks. Exactly what Petrojan says, don't let your rooks just wait passively, free some space for them. Queen f4, rook e8, b4, rook d5. And yeah, I mean, there's some counterplay. I mean, we got a, b, and queen c5 threats, but still, e6, f6. Rook f1 was played by, this is Stockfish against Dragon. Queen e7, rook c3, takes. I mean, white is just a pawn up with a very nice pass pawn on e6 up. And I mean, there's all sorts of counterplay because, yeah, obviously the black rook's now on d5, for example, quite strong. You've got some counterplay along the d file. White's pawns are a little bit advanced, but still, in the long run, you do expect the best engines to win this. And yeah, both Stockfish and Komodo manage this. So yeah, even staying still a little bit, or finding some counterplay in a good, accurate way, it still looks like a pretty difficult position now. But bishop takes c5 was played, and then this was Winter's idea: d takes c5, f6. Now the idea is if e6, we can take the pawn on c5, and the knight's coming round to e4. And the clever bit is supposed to be that after e takes f6, we go knight f6. Ha! Look at that. And we're attacking the queen on g4, and we're going to be able to play something like rook takes e3 and knight e4, and getting a knight onto the outpost. Well, it's not the you're not completely happy about things, but well, blocking the e-file at least is the first step to trying to reduce white's attack. Maybe you wouldn't even take on e3, maybe just play knight e4 straight away to have both rooks blocked behind that knight. But Stockfish was already at +8 or +10, and it had seen something absolutely beautiful, and well, in my engine games as well, from quite a distance. Komodo Dragon obviously also saw this stuff. So rook takes e7, beautiful queen sacrifice. Knight takes g4, h takes g4. Not 100% obvious why this would be so amazing. Well, obviously, you know, rook on the 7th. This king side is weak, and we've got the dark squared bishop to be able to get at it. Maybe some ideas with g5, f6. But you know, certainly if I was trying to assess this from afar, I'd be worried straight away when I saw the move d4, because d4 is going to free this lovely square for the queen, even, you know, free this diagonal somehow for the queen's counterplay. And you know, this move d3 to d2 is going to distract my rook away from the e-file. You know, it's I'd be really thinking about, you know, how can I get my rooks onto the 7th? Can I go rook b7, but then he's going to give a check, he's going to go d3. You know, am I in time or am I not? You know, I mean, these sort of things are quite difficult to assess, really. A queen can do an awful lot of damage on its own, especially when looking for perpetual. But Stockfish's idea was absolutely beautiful. The first move is to play bishop d6. So that blocks in the queen, and well, you'll notice that this queen has very few squares, just a few squares along the 8th rank and nothing else. However, playing bishop d6 blocks the queen in, but it does leave the d pawn free. So d3 is here, and this pawn is going to move to d2. And yeah, again, you know, you start trying to calculate, have I got time to put my rooks to the 7th? No, not at all. But yeah, I mean, what Stockfish finds is quite incredible, simply, and it's all based really around not mating black, which is really what you think about, but actually just trapping the black queen, which is definitely something I can tell you that you don't think about at all. So the first move is g5. Yeah, we're just trying to open up the king, and of course if we get in gh and something like bishop e5 check, this can be really dangerous. So black plays h takes g5 here, and then we play rook h1 check, king g8, and then f6. Look at that move, f6, threatening rook takes g7 checkmate. So there's not really much black can do. G takes f6. But here's the yeah, the amazingly clever part of it, because you know, you're starting to look at moves like rook h7, and then you're looking at queen f8 to stop rook g7, and then this move d2 is still coming in. You know, is this all right? I mean, are we sure? You know, but this wasn't Stockfish's idea at all. In actual fact, the idea after f6 g takes f6 was to play this incredible move rookeh7. And what you'll notice is that these two sacrifices, okay, they were to expose the black king, of course they were, also to gain access to the 7th rank for the rooks, but they were also actually to prevent the black queen from moving out to f6 or g5. And then looking at where the black queen can go, it can go to c8, it can go to e8. That's all the black queen can go without being captured. The black king's pinned to the back rank, which just means that our next move is simply unstoppable. Rook h8 check, followed by rook takes d8. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it took me completely by surprise, you know, and I mean, I've been describing my thoughts, and that was pretty much what they were during the game, you know, and rook eh7, this idea just caught me completely by surprise. Absolutely beautiful. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it, to be honest. So queen e8 was played, rook h8 check, takes, rook d1, that d pawn is going, check there, takes, rook b4, rook a3, and well, you know, it's not completely trivial. I wouldn't fancy particularly having to put this away in a blitz finish, but for Stockfish it's just completely trivial. Rook e3, rook e7 check, just repositioning, so now if the a pawn move disappears, we'll take the b pawn, and then c6 will be weak. Rook e4, very nice. Rook e3, g4, we're really putting the black king in a cage. If f5, we go rook e6 check, and after rook h1, rook e6, we're even looking at ideas like bishop e5 to win the f6 pawn, check there, rook c1, and now we do go bishop e5. We take it, and rook f5, and yeah, you know, every single move that that Stockfish plays is just unbelievably accurate. And essentially, you know, we're going to leave black with a g pawn. We're going to make sure that we win all the queenside pawns, and then well, that'll be the end of that. I'll just go through the moves quickly so you can see. It's yeah, I mean, just an excellent technical performance here. Rook b3, rook b4 was played by Winter, but that's not going to work, is it? I think everyone can see that. The king just gets in and wins pawns, and that's the end of the game for us. So there we are. I mean, I hope that I've managed to achieve that rare thing to present a Berlin game to you that's actually very enjoyable. I do think that this was a very interesting moment here in the opening. Look at all those arrows, where black played knight f5, and I do consider that to be a mistake. It's not very easy to see how white is going to achieve something, but I think what Stockfish did is a wonderful template. I mean, these moves a4, a5, putting the queen onto this knight outpost b3, putting the knight on the outpost on e5, and then powering up behind it, you know, and then just gradually trying to erode black's central control, and you know, some subtle moves to achieve it. Queen a3, but it was this move c4 to c5, and then bishop d3 to get rid of the bishop on e4. And all of a sudden, I mean, you know, it's clear that, you know, one side has made progress here. And yeah, when white plays the move f4, yeah, you really feel, oh my goodness, f5 coming in, expansion, you know, really feels very, very dangerous. And of course, Stockfish or Komodo Dragon can defend it, but I would have thought that it would be beyond most people, and certainly also beyond you know, a 3200 rated engine like Winter. And well, you know, quite apart from, you know, this lovely strategical performance, the tactics were exceptional. And I mean, I just love this whole thing. Bishop d6, just seeing that the queen has no mobility, and then these multi-purpose breaking moves on the king side, you know, g5 and f6, both opening up the black king, opening up the 7th rank for the white pieces, and then also combining to trap the black queen. I mean, simply outstanding. And even the final technical performance with all these hyper accurate rook maneuvers, you know, it's yeah, really impressive and instructive as well. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that. In a couple of days, we'll probably have a few more Leela videos looking at how Leela plays 1d4. We've had 5 videos already on 1e4. But well, you know, if you enjoyed this, why not give a like, subscribe to the channel, keep tuned for yeah, I think probably the channel that probably looks the most of any at the moment at engine games. And well, I hope you can agree that you know, with games like this, they're definitely worth keeping an eye on. Thanks very much, and hope to see you at the next video.